2 weeks before our wedding, Derek dumped me at a restaurant in front of his friends, after criticizing my outfit, mocking my job, and handing me the bill. As he walked away, he said, "A girl like you should be grateful I even proposed." I smiled and waited. 3 years. That's how long Derek and I were together. 3 years of birthdays, family holidays, Sunday morning coffee runs, and binge-watching true crime shows on our worn-out couch. 3 years of thinking we were building a life, and then suddenly realizing I was the only one building it. When he proposed, I cried. Not the cute mascara stays intact kind of cry, the full-blown, shaking hands, ugly sobbing kind. It was at a quiet picnic in Asheville, just the two of us and a ring that I later found out his mom helped him pick. He wasn't the most romantic guy, but he got down on one knee and said he couldn't imagine his life without me. I believed him. We started planning almost immediately. Venue booked? Check. Pinterest board overflowing? Check. Guest list arguments with my mom? Also check. My dress was at the seamstress for final alterations, and I had spent way too many hours searching for the perfect shoes that wouldn't kill my feet by hour 2 of dancing. I thought we were on the same page. Excited, nervous, but committed. Looking back, there were signs. Subtle, quiet ones that I brushed off like lint on my sleeve. Derek could be critical. Not in a screaming, slamming doors kind of way. More like 1,000 little pinpricks that added up over time. "Are you really going to wear that? The color's a little harsh with your skin tone." "Babe, I mean, retail is great and all, but you ever think about going back to school? I just want you to be your best self. You know, not everyone can pull off that haircut." He'd call it honesty. I called it helpful at first, even mature. I told myself, at least he isn't fake. Past me really thought she was being wise. He'd tease me about my job, assistant manager at a home goods store, as if it wasn't a real career. I made decent money, handled payroll, managed staff, kept the whole thing running. But he'd joke around friends that I played store for a living. But I loved him. I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're engaged? You compromise. You accept flaws. You tell yourself no relationship is perfect. So I started thinking of his comments as quirks, his version of dry humor. And honestly, by that point, I'd already defended him so many times, I didn't know how to stop. Then came the dinner invite. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was at work, labeling new inventory when he texted, "Hey, dinner Friday with some of the guys from work. Wanna come?" I blinked. Derek never, and I mean never, invited me to anything work-related. He always said it wasn't that kind of office, or too corporate for plus ones. So naturally, my first thought was, maybe this is him changing. Maybe he's finally letting me into that part of his life. I was excited. Scratch that. I was giddy. I hadn't met most of his coworkers. The only one I'd ever even heard much about was this guy Brad, who always made weird keto jokes. I told Jenna, my maid of honor and best friend since 7th grade, and she immediately squealed. "It's happening. He's trying to show you off now. That's a good sign." God, if only we knew. I went shopping after work that same day. Even though money was tight with wedding expenses, I splurged on a new dress. Not flashy, just this elegant, deep emerald green wrap dress that hugged in the right places without screaming, "Try hard." I even broke out my fancy hair curler, the one I only use when I really care about how I look. Because I did. I wanted to impress his friends. I wanted them to see what he saw in me. Or maybe I just wanted to believe there was still something to impress. I didn't realize it at the time, but Derek hadn't said where dinner would be until the morning of. He texted me the name Alto, that ultra-trendy restaurant in uptown Charlotte, the kind of place that doesn't print prices on the menu and serves portions smaller than your palm. You know? Fancy, fancy. I felt my stomach flip, not in a good way. My card had already taken a hit from bridesmaid gifts and the second deposit for our florist, but I figured it would be okay. Surely Derek invited me out. He'd at least split the bill, right? I was only 2 minutes late. 2. Parking was chaos and the nearest lot was a 5-block walk. But when I walked in, heels clicking against the tile, I could already tell something was off. Derek barely looked up. He stood halfway, gave me a side hug, and muttered, "You wore that?" I should have turned around the moment I saw him laughing with his coworkers, like I was just an afterthought. There he was. Derek, seated with two guys I recognized only vaguely from the LinkedIn stalking I'd done early in our engagement. Brad and Mike, both in business casual uniforms that screamed I peaked in middle management. Their jackets hung off their chairs, drinks already halfway gone, as they talked in that smug, loud way people do when they think they're important. Derek didn't stand when I walked up. He half rose from his seat, gave me a tight-lipped smile, and said, "You're late," like I was a server who'd missed the check drop. It was 2 minutes. I checked, but I smiled anyway, trying not to let the tension settle into my posture. I sat down, smoothed my dress, and glanced at the table. They'd already ordered appetizers, truffle fries, seared scallops, something else I didn't recognize. I hadn't even opened the menu. Derek's eyes did a quick scan of my outfit, and he let out this low chuckle that made Brad smirk. "You went all out, huh?" he said, as if I'd shown up in a ball gown. I glanced down at the green wrap dress I had obsessed over in the dressing room mirror. Nothing flashy. Elegant, sure. Confident, maybe. But hardly over the top. I'd worn heels, curled my hair, even put on that setting spray Jenna swore by. I opened my mouth to say something light, something disarming. But Derek had already turned back to Brad to finish his story about some meeting that should have been an email but turned into a 3-hour brainstorm. I listened, or at least I pretended to. The conversation was full of jargon and bragging rights, sales funnels, conversions, KPIs. Every time I tried to chime in, Derek either talked over me or followed up my comment with a correction. Once, I mentioned a promotion we were running at my store, and he waved a hand like he was swatting a mosquito. "She manages a retail chain," he explained to his friends with an exaggerated wink. "She's great with coupons." They laughed. I smiled, but something inside me buckled just a little. 15 minutes in, and I could already feel it. That heavy, sinking feeling in your stomach when the ground starts to shift and you know you're about to fall. It was when Mike asked how we'd met that the real unraveling began. I launched into the story, how Jenna had worked on a freelance design project with Derek and set us up for coffee. It was cute, unexpected, something I liked telling. But Derek cut in before I finished. "Yeah, Jenna felt bad for her," he said casually, lifting his glass. "Total pity date. I was doing her a favor." He laughed again. Brad laughed too. Mike let out a low, "Damn." And I sat there. Just sat there. My mouth went dry. My heart felt like it was in my throat, and the wine I'd ordered suddenly tasted like vinegar. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. I excused myself to the restroom before I cried in front of the table. The bathroom was dim and modern, with mirrors lined in gold and a scent that was trying too hard to be expensive. I locked myself in a stall, took out my phone, and texted Jenna. "What the hell is happening?" The response was instant. "Call me. Right now." I couldn't. My voice was shaky, my face too hot. I didn't want them to hear me cry, so I splashed cold water on my cheeks, reapplied lip gloss with trembling hands, and gave myself one of those sad little pep talks women learn how to deliver to their own reflections. When I got back, they were laughing. Loudly. About what? I couldn't tell. But the moment I sat down, the laughter stopped. Derek picked up his drink and took a long, slow sip without even acknowledging me. Then came dinner. I'd ordered pasta. It was the cheapest thing on the menu, and honestly, I just needed something to do with my hands. Derek leaned over as the waiter set the plate down. "Pasta?" he said, raising an eyebrow. "Carb loading for a marathon?" Brad chuckled. Mike made some comment about winter insulation. I smiled. I chewed slowly. I swallowed rage along with every bite. I didn't speak for the next 20 minutes. I nodded when I had to, laughed on cue, pushed food around my plate like I was sculpting shame with a fork. I looked at Derek, at the man I was supposed to marry in 2 weeks, and I felt something shift. Not just disappointment. Something colder. Something final. Then the check arrived. The waiter placed it gently in the center of the table, like it was a live grenade. Derek picked it up, glanced at the total, and without hesitation slid it in front of me. I thought maybe he was just showing me the number. I even leaned in to see, but then he said it. And I will never, ever forget the way he said it. "I don't think this is going to work. I'm just not attracted to you anymore." Silence. No build-up. No let-in. Not even eye contact. Just a dismissal, as casual as handing over the check. I blinked. "What?" He stood up. "I've been trying. But honestly, I think you should be grateful I even proposed. A girl like you? Come on." He put on his jacket, turned to his friends, and with a laugh that scraped against every nerve in my body, said, "Let's bounce." They left, together. No one looked back. I sat there, alone at that white tablecloth, with a $347 check in front of me and a silence so loud it made my ears ring. And then I paid, with the same credit card I'd used to order our wedding favors last week. I didn't cry on the way home. I thought I would. Expected it even. But instead, I drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other clutching the receipt like it held the answers to some riddle I couldn't quite solve. The kind that starts with, "How the hell did I miss all of this?" By the time I got to my apartment, my phone had buzzed twice, both from Jenna. She showed up 20 minutes later with a bottle of Cabernet, a bag of chocolate-covered almonds, and that expression she only breaks out when someone's about to go full scorched earth. "Tell me everything," she said, kicking off her shoes and grabbing 2 glasses. So I did. The dress, the jokes, the bill, the breakup, all of it. At some point between my second glass of wine and 4th cookie, Jenna stood up, pulled her hair into a ponytail, and declared, "We're doing a background check." I laughed. She didn't. She pulled out her laptop, cracked her knuckles, and started typing like she was auditioning for a hacker movie. First stop, Derek's LinkedIn. According to his profile, he was a senior marketing strategist at one of the top firms in Charlotte. Jenna snorted. "Please, this man thinks Canva is a personality trait." We cross-referenced company websites, Zoom event photos, even press releases, and that's when we saw it. A team photo posted last month, a company leadership retreat. Derek wasn't in it, at all, which was odd because he had posted a picture from that exact weekend, claiming it was leadership alignment in the mountains. The photo? A stock image. We found it on the second page of Google Images. My stomach sank. Jenna texted Miles, a junior analyst who worked at Derek's company and occasionally joined us for brunch when she brought her boyfriend. Miles had always seemed low-key and polite, the kind of guy who used real napkins and still said ma'am to waitstaff. Jenna just wrote, "Hey, quick question. Is Derek actually a senior strategist, or is he full of crap?" Miles responded in less than a minute. "Lol, what? He's not senior anything. He's an admin assistant." Then he followed up with a longer message. He schedules meetings, does room booking, orders lunch for the team. Why? I stared at the screen, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. For 3 years, Derek had built a fantasy world, not just for the internet, but for me. The job, the business trips, the big presentations, all of it fabricated. He wasn't some up-and-coming executive with a fast-track promotion. He was the guy making coffee runs for the people who actually did the work. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood up, walked into the closet, and pulled down the wedding dress I had hidden under a clear garment bag. I stared at it for a long time. Ivory satin, sweetheart neckline, buttons down the back I dreamed of undoing at the end of our perfect night. That dress didn't belong to me anymore. That night, I barely slept. I kept rereading our old texts, scanning for cracks. There were plenty. The vague language. The excuses. The weekends he said he was traveling for conferences but never sent photos, only reposted ones that now looked suspiciously well lit and perfectly cropped. I don't know when the anger replaced the hurt, but sometime around 3 a.m., I stopped crying and started planning. The next morning, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, Jenna's name lit up my screen. "Pick up," she texted. "You're going to want to hear this." I called back. Apparently, Derek had told his family that we were still together, blissfully, stupidly in love, and that we had big news to announce at his upcoming birthday dinner. It was going to be held at his parents' house, Margaret and Frank's place in the suburbs. A backyard cookout with family and cake and Derek soaking up compliments about his fake job and his real fiancé. Except he wasn't going to have a fiancé by then. Margaret had called Jenna, not knowing we'd spoken, and asked if I'd be attending. I wasn't just expected. I was a guest of honor. I should have been horrified. And part of me was. But another part? The part that had been humiliated, laughed at, and handed a $347 bill while being dumped in public? That part wanted to sit front row for Derek's unraveling. "I'm going," I told Jenna. She raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" I mean, I'm all for poetic justice, but this could get messy. That's the idea, I said. But not loud messy, not screaming and throwing drinks, just truth. Undeniable, simple, quiet, the kind that echoes. She nodded slowly, the corners of her mouth curling upward. We'll need evidence. And oh, we got evidence. Over the next few days, Jenna and Miles helped me collect every contradiction, every lie, screenshots of text messages where Derek bragged about leading strategy sessions. Photos he claimed were his events matched with public images online. Calendar dates where he told me he was in New York, but posted from his living room. His own words, cataloged across 3 years of messages, posts, and emails. Miles even offered to help deliver some of the truth in person. He said he'd be nearby that weekend for a work thing anyway, or so he claimed. I'm pretty sure he just didn't want to miss the show. Friday night, Jenna came over to help me pick an outfit. We decided on a black midi dress. Tasteful, clean lines, nothing flashy. It was the same one Derek once said made me blend in too much. That comment used to sting. Now, it felt like armor. I didn't sleep much that night. My stomach churned with what-ifs. What if Derek exploded? What if his family believed him? What if I froze? But then I remembered that dinner. His voice saying I should be grateful. That image steadied me more than any pep talk. Saturday evening, I stood in front of the mirror one last time. I looked calm, almost serene. But make no mistake, I wasn't going there for closure. I was going to tell the truth, and I was going to let it burn. The day after Derek's birthday dinner felt like waking up in the eye of a hurricane, deceptively calm, but surrounded by wreckage. My phone started buzzing before I even got out of bed. Missed calls, texts, Instagram DMs, a voicemail from Derek's sister Lauren, 2 from his mom, 1 from a number I didn't recognize that just said, "You ruined everything," in all caps. Subtle, I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. Instead, I made tea. I sat on the couch. I exhaled, really exhaled, for the first time in what felt like weeks. Then the social media storm started. Derek posted a long, unpunctuated Facebook rant about betrayal and fake people who smile to your face and stab you over cake, which was ironic, considering how hard he tried to rewrite the narrative after our restaurant fiasco. He tagged no one, but it didn't take a detective to know who he meant. Then came the Instagram story, a blurry old photo of me taken in his apartment over a year ago. I was mid-nap, face smushed into a throw pillow, mouth slightly open. Captioned, "Miss Perfect? Not so perfect." I stared at it for a solid minute before laughing. Not bitterly, not in pain, but genuinely, from my chest. That was his revenge? A candid nap photo? Jenna screenshot it, of course. So did half my group chat. This is what he came up with after being publicly exposed in front of his family? One friend wrote, "A sleepy face? LMAO." But things escalated quickly. That afternoon, Derek showed up at my apartment building, drunk. The concierge called me before even letting him near the elevator. There's a man down here yelling about a misunderstanding and how you ruined his life?" I didn't go down. I asked them to call building security. Derek refused to leave at first, then started pounding on the glass, yelling that he wanted just 5 minutes to explain. When the guard threatened to call the police, Derek stormed off, but not before shouting, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear, "She's nothing without me." It would have been sad if it weren't so pathetic. That evening, I got a call from Miles. He was calm, measured, but I could hear the strain in his voice. Apparently, Derek had sent threatening messages to several people at work, including Miles, accused them of sabotage and colluding with his ex. The firm didn't take it lightly. By Monday, Derek was on unpaid leave. By Wednesday, he was let go entirely. Missing 3 days of work and sending unhinged emails will do that. He moved in with his uncle in Savannah, Georgia. At least, that's what Lauren told Jenna in a follow-up text that included the words therapy and digital detox. I didn't ask for more. I didn't want more. I blocked him on everything. Numbers, socials, even the playlist we used to share on Spotify. I scrubbed the apartment clean of his presence. Wedding to-do lists in the trash. The framed photo from our engagement shoot? Replaced by a painting I bought on Etsy from a woman in Oregon who draws powerful women walking away from fires they didn't start. And Miles? Somehow, through all of this, we kept talking. No weird pressure, no rebound energy, just easy, real conversations, mostly about dumb TikToks and weird office stories. It was refreshing, grounding. We've had lunch a few times since. He never brings up Derek unless I do. He also never once treated me like I was broken or needed fixing. Just human, healing. That's a rare kind of kindness. The strangest thing, looking back, I'm not angry anymore. Not really. Oh, there are still moments, flashes of what could have been, or that sting when I remember the bridal fitting appointment I had to cancel. But it's not fury, not even sadness, not anymore. It's clarity. I'm thankful. Thankful I found out before I said, I do. Thankful I got to see who he really was. Not the polished version he showed everyone, but the man underneath. The man who needed to lie, to perform, to control. And thankful that now I'm free. Not because someone saved me, not because karma swooped in, but because I finally chose myself. I don't have a wedding coming up anymore, but I do have peace. And honestly, that's the better ending. If this story hit home or made you think twice about who's really sitting across from you at dinner, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Open Secret Stories, and turn on notifications. We share real, raw, and unforgettable stories every day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.